What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the bass channel. Now, normally when we demo gear, as you've seen, we get a bunch of different players and try to put it through as many different potential settings and styles and sounds as possible. But in an effort to try to be a little bit more relaxed around here, we're just gonna mostly talk about this piece of gear in a relatively new series that we like to call Gear Talk. So today, we are discussing possibly the most polarizing instrument that has really, surfaced this year in 2021. Polarizing is maybe not a totally fair word. Maybe the more fair word is hated. To call it polarizing would imply that, approximately 50% of the population liked it. And so far, I haven't seen that. So in keeping with my tradition of kind of being the only person I know who likes certain things like, Gibson basses or the St. Anger album, we're gonna check out my newest favorite bass. It is the Jackson I don't know what the fuck it's called, but it's basically Jackson's Fender Rickenbacker. There has been a plethora of different funny names, but in my humble opinion, I think the official name for this bass should be Jackenbacker. It's made by Jackson. It looks like a Rickenbacker. It sounds like a Fender. Most people hate it. If you've seen Patrick Hunter's video, he has a pretty good bit where he goes through and reads everybody's comments on it. But we're gonna just talk about this bass today. A couple things that I have to say right out of the gate. Traditionally, historically, I have not really been much of a Jackson fan. This is the second Jackson bass that I've played. I've played a handful of their guitars, and the guitars were a little too Shreddy McGee for me. The other Jackson bass that I played was the Dave Ellefson 5-string from a few years back, and I just remember being relatively underwhelmed by it. So I kind of anticipated the same thing for this bass, but once I started playing it, it's actually really comfortable. It does feel Fender-esque, but the one thing that I think made it feel at home or more at home in my hands is that unlike a Fender, which is a 9.5-inch radius on most of them, this is actually a 12 to 16 compound radius. So 12 is relatively flat. It's kind of what you get on like Gibson basses, which again, I'm a big fan of Gibson basses. Whether or not you like the sound is irrelevant. The thing I like about Gibsons is just how they feel in my hand, and I think a lot of that radius has to do with that. As you slide up to the upper register, it goes more into a 16-inch, which I think is a little bit closer to a Warwick. I think they might be 20 inches, but either way, I am a fan of flatter fretboard radiuses, so maybe that might be a little bit of what is feeling so comfortable in my hands with this bass. We're gonna hear it a little bit, but really, I don't think hearing it is that important. It's a PJ bass. Jackson is owned by Fender. It's got a 3-band preamp. We kind of know what it sounds like. It's a souped up Fender, basically. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit about how it looks, and I think most important is how it feels, because as far as I can tell, there isn't a tremendous amount of content across YouTube outside of people just looking at pictures and laughing at it. In my little bit of research that I did last night, I think I'm the only person who actually is holding one on camera, and I have to be honest with you, I actually really like it. We have this on loan. Big shout out to my friend Billy from Zounds for sending this over so we can do the video. I am gonna try to figure out how to keep this, whether we do a little deal here or there, or I just straight up buy it. This is probably not going back. So obviously, this is kind of a Fender bass. Jackson is owned by Fender. PJ, I don't really think the topic here is how does it sound. I think we kind of know how it sounds, but in the interest of being thorough, let's just hear it. So here it is, all flat, volume maxed, both pickups, no EQ applied. Now let's go over to just the P. Back over to the J. And I should mention that we are plugged directly into a Tascam US 20x20 interface, going straight into Logic. I'm not using an amp at the moment. So let's hear just the treble. Again, I am gonna start all flat. Now we'll boost the treble. Cutting the treble. Bring that back up. Let's boost the mids. And we'll cut the mids. Back up to flat, boosting the bass. And cutting the bass. I don't know why you'd ever want to do this, but here it is. Now let's do a couple just preset EQ. Let's go all bass, all treble, no mid. We'll stay in the middle. Backing the bass off, boosting the mid halfway, keeping the treble max. And the other thing we can do is we can boost the bass, kill the treble, boost the mids, and go all back pickup for that real burpy kind of. Let's do that same thing with the P. Maybe a little too much mid. So again, big surprise. I think we all knew what to expect on the tone. However, it doesn't sound bad. It sounds great. I think it's, it's a PJ bass. It sounds like a Fender. It's kind of like a hot rodded Fender, right? Because you got the 3-band EQ. And I will say, with the EQ, when you max out like the treble, for example, I don't know what the frequency is, but when you boost it all the way, it's not overbearing. Like, some of these preamps give you like plus or minus 18, sometimes plus or minus 20 dB and whatever the frequency is, which is a little much. And I don't know, for me, if I'm gonna play it, I'm just gonna max it. I need more treble, let's just turn the treble all the way up. I'm not gonna sit there and go, okay, well I want 40% more treble and 15% less mids. We're just gonna turn them up or down, right? So let's do one more sound. I'm gonna do a kind of a warmer P-bass thing. So to go against what I just said, I'm gonna cut the mids by like 40% and then turn the treble all the way down, and bass is almost all the way up. Okay, now mids are all the way off, bass is all the way up. So obviously a lot of versatility. Going over a couple more specs, like I said, 3-band EQ, master volume, pickup blend, passive PJ pickups. They say Jackson pickups, but I'm sure they're Fender designed. So the pickups themselves are passive, the preamp is active. It is a neck through, maple neck with I believe it was a poplar body, and it feels solid. I love the neck through. Up on the headstock, we have Jackson branded tuners. That's all I can tell you about them. They're just Jackson branded. So far, they feel decent. I have not tuned this bass the entire time we've been shooting, and it stayed in tune, so that's good. While we're at the headstock, it might be good to note that this is the relatively unchanged since the 80s Jackson headstock, which at first glance I didn't like, but in prep for this, the more I kept looking at it online, and then when it finally got here and I took it out of the box, I've warmed up to it. I don't hate it. I think the entire thing as a unit totally flows. It's a really cool instrument. It's one of the better overseas basses that I have played. There's been a few that have been overseas that I really like, and there's been a couple that leave a little bit to be desired. I opted for the black. Now this comes in 3 colors. It comes in this awesome black, it comes in green, and this atrocity right here. And of the 3 colors, I chose black for a couple reasons. One being,
I like the orange.
Dave likes the orange. He's gonna jump on in a minute and we're gonna talk about the orange. I chose the black for a couple reasons. Being a Rush fan, black is kind of the only Rickenbacker color that I recognize. That's my joke answer. The real answer is because this is a shocking bass. It's a Jackson Fender Rickenbacker, and to then throw some outrageous color like green or orange on top of it, I think makes it more shocking. I think with black, it's a nice, it kind of stays in the background type of a color to where we can just kind of appreciate the bass for what it is. I think the only negative thing that I personally would have to say about it is this cover right here. Looks great in the photos, looks great in person, but for me, being a pick player, that is exactly where my pick is gonna hit the string, because I like to rest my palm on the bridge so I can kind of control my dynamics that way, and when I do that, it sounds like that. Now, you can do the Gene Simmons thing. He has the bridge cover where he rests his palm on the bridge cover to get you that anchor point, and you are picking a little closer to the neck, so you're getting more string energy. But that's not really how I play. It's if that's how you play, cool, then it's comfortable in that sense. As far as fingers go, I'm typically over the P anyway, so I don't notice it. But if this was, when this is mine, I'm gonna take that off and put, I'm gonna try the EMG Frank Bello signature set and maybe bypass the preamp. I'm not really a fan of onboard preamps because I'm a recording guy mostly. I don't really gig too often. Anything that I can do here, I can do there, being the computer or my preamp pedal. So this just kind of gets in the way for me. I don't know, we'll see how it goes. But being a big EMG fan, I'll probably throw those in. Nothing wrong with these, I just like EMG. Let's see, what else? The knobs are straight out of Rick. The pick guard is straight out of Rick. Now this bridge, from afar, looks like the Rick bridge. It says Jackson on it. It's, you know, through here, through the bottom. It's not a string through body or anything. But the saddles and the rest of the bridge outside of the part that make it look like a Rick tailpiece is the stock high mass fender bridge, like the ones that come on the green Fender Special Deluxe PJ, whatever the hell they're calling that bass. This one. So Fender is putting out that high mass bridge stock on all of their basses, and if you look closely at the saddles, it's obvious that it's kind of the same bridge, just slightly reshaped to make it look like this. And I kind of had a moment the other day, remembering that Jackson is owned by Fender. So that makes a lot of sense. The fact that this is a PJ bass with a Fender style Rick looking bridge that says Jackson on it. Really, I don't have a whole lot more to say about this bass other than I actually really enjoy it. I know a lot of people out there don't. So that's about all I have to say on the matter. Dave's gonna jump in. We're not quite set up here to do a two-person talking thing at the moment. I'm in a temporary space. We'll get into that later. But come April of 2022, I'll be in a new permanent space and we'll try to set up for more, you know, talk show a la The View style videos. So I'm gonna jump out. Dave's gonna jump in and talk to you a little bit about this killer / polarizing bass.
Look, I'm just gonna say, instruments made in Asia have rivaled instruments made in North America for years and years and years now. You get bad ones from some lines, you get great ones from some lines. So, if we didn't cut all of that discussion out, we were just talking about...
We should.
We probably should. This is the first Jackson bass I have ever played. I used to covet Jackson guitars. The Jackson Dinky with the Floyd Rose was like my dream guitar when I was 15. Kind of like this one, but I've never gotten a chance to play a Jackson bass before. So this is totally new, coming in blind, and first and foremost, I like it better than I thought I would. I think to a different extent than Chris. I didn't think it was a bad looking instrument, except for I thought the headstock, being all sharp and pointy 80s Jackson, didn't really go with the body being all original Fender P. But in person, it looks like the lines, especially with the binding, are slimmed down a little bit on the body, so it looks less out of place than it did in original pictures. I did yell in the background that I like the orange color. The orange color is not my favorite color. My favorite color on this bass is actually the green. But the orange is, orange is just a color that I like a lot. And this particular orange is so bright and so, what's the word I'm looking for?
Ugly.
Traffic cone orange. It's definitely safety orange. There's a little red, a little pink in it. It's not a pure orange like Fender's Capri orange or whatever. But the green is cool looking and the black is cool looking. I think all three colors look good. That said, playing it, I'm not a huge fan of gloss on the back of the neck, but it's not too bad. It's not sticky and it's not a really thick neck. Doesn't have that flat, super heavy metal radius to the neck that you'd expect from, well, Jackson really, but it's not like an Ibanez neck. It's not super flat and super fast. It actually feels more shaped like it's like a D shape or a U shape. It's not a C shape. So to me, it reminds me more of a Warwick neck profile. That said, One of the other great improvements, and I say improvements, obviously subjectively, but in my opinion, over an actual Rickenbacker, two things actually. Number one, there's no gloss on the fretboard. A lot of Ricks have that super thick lacquered fretboard, and I never really liked that. As much as I love Rickenbackers in general, I don't love the big thick finish on the fingerboard. And the other thing is, being a PJ setup, it doesn't have the buzz, Rickenbacker's buzz. They don't do their pickups with reverse wound, reverse polarity. Unlike a regular J bass, when you have the pickups dialed into middle blend between both pickups on a Rick, it still hums. So, so this doesn't do that. I like the way it plays. I like the way it sounds. Again, it sounds like a PJ. It's just a good sounding bass, solid sounding bass. I don't have any complaints about it in particular. I'm not a big fan of actives myself. This is me making my stand. I am a passive bass guy. And when I say this is an active bass, it's because it's got the 3-band preamp. The pickups themselves are passive, but it's running through a 3-band preamp. So I'm calling this an active bass. One of the advantages is, you can take fewer basses to a session, or you can dial in and out particular frequencies, but I just like passive tone myself. So, easier is better. And this one does not, I don't think, have the ability to remove the preamp from the equation and just go passive out to the jack. So that's one of those things. I think this should be called, I think that the Chris calls it the Jackenbacher because it's a Jackson and it looks like Rickenbacker, but I think that you're leaving the PJ-ness out. So I'm going to call this officially Percy Jackson PJ Rickenbacker Esquire.
It doesn't work with the rhythm.
Yeah, I think it's a cool bass. I don't know how much these are. How much are these? $6.99. So for $6.99, you get a solid PJ that has a unique look. Well, is it a unique look if it looks like 3 different basses had a love child?
No one else has done it.
Well, yeah, no one else has done exactly this in exactly this way. And anybody who's known me for any length of time, I love weird basses. So, I mean, the stamp of approval on this one from me. I don't quite like it as much as Chris does. I don't want it to come home with me forever, but I would not mind having one of these at some point, and or playing one whenever we're recording stuff. So yeah, I enjoy. Back to you, Chris.
Okay, and that just about wraps it up on the PJ Jackin Ricken Esquire Jackenbacher. Hopefully you enjoyed. Let me know down below what you think. I don't know how many out there have actually bought this, considering what I've seen in the comments, probably not many. So this might be discontinued soon, so grab it while you can, and you can probably make a profit next year. So until next time, I'm Chris from the Bass Channel. You just saw Dave. He's Dave with the Bass Channel, and we will see you next time.